on the western tip of the Mojave Desert, was a recently installed solar power project that used conventional solar panels. A helicopter would be a great way to get a look at it. As we approached the solar farm, 2,000 football fields worth of solar panels stretched out as far as I could see in every direction, all of them tilting south to bask in the rays of summer. To my delight, the pilot obliged my request to fly closer to the ground. As we swooped in, I could see the details on each panel, down to the individual cells of silicon, mottled blue-black wafers about as big as your hand, that convert nearly 20% of the sunlight striking them to electricity. Connecting these repeating units together, by first wiring cells together into panels and then panels together into a massive solar farm, makes it possible to generate ever more energy, limited only by the amount of available land. That helicopter ride introduced me to the massive scale of solar power. I had built only fingernail-sized solar cells in my ivory tower, actually in a laboratory in a limestone basement at Oxford. Witnessing solar in the wild disabused me of the fiction that the city could immediately deploy newly invented cells on the scale required to realize the mayor's vision. Billions would be needed to carpet a square mile of desert. Under Mayor Villaraigosa, Los Angeles would ultimately lead the country in its deployment of solar power. And we did so with tried-and-true technology. Silicon solar panels have been used for decades, and today the Chinese can mass-produce them reliably. By using those panels, we minimized the risk that deploying them would cost more than expected, or that they would stop working. The mayor's quest to use more solar power, an erratic source of electricity that only works when the sun is shining, was hard enough, given the city's mandate to keep the lights on for 4 million Angelinos. So we strove to avoid taking any further risks on unproven solar technologies. From that experience, I learned that no single perspective will suffice to realize the enormous potential of solar energy. The sun beams down more energy to the Earth's surface in an hour than the world uses in a year. For instance, Ron Nichols, the practical-minded head of the city's electricity utility, remarked to me that adding renewable energy to the electricity grid is like repairing the engine of a 747 mid-flight. The last thing you want to do is add another moving part by trying out a new technology. But my colleagues in academia had shown me that solar technologies far superior to today's already exist in the lab. If they could be refined and mass-produced, they could one day make it possible to harness the sun's energy much more efficiently and cheaply. Indeed, where you stand depends on where you sit when it comes to assessing the progress of solar technology. Observers within the energy sector regard the declining cost of conventional solar panels as astounding, even revolutionary. The plunging cost of solar power in the United States compared with the average cost of electricity, which has held steady for decades. But technology experts consider solar's cost declines to be unremarkable. Instead of comparing the cost of electricity from solar with that from fossil fuels, they might compare the cost of 1 watt of power generated from solar with the cost to achieve an analogous performance metric in a microchip, like a gigabyte of memory storage. Microchip costs have fallen 1,000,000 times faster than those of solar panels. That rapid decline is a corollary of Moore's law. Moore's law, by some reports, is dying for computer chips known as microprocessors, but it is alive and well for memory chips, as I've learned from my father, the technology chief at a major chip maker, who recently unveiled a new flash memory chip design that is actually beating Moore's law and is already in your iPhone. Recognizing the value of different perspectives, I've eagerly sought out more over the last decade. In addition to my time in academia and in Los Angeles, I've worked at 2 Silicon Valley startups, consulted for large energy companies, advised U.S. federal and state officials, and visited burgeoning markets for solar power all over the world. There, too,